Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melanie Linder. I'm the Vice President for Marketing and Communications. I'm sure many of you are wondering today why President Armacost is not kicking off our town hall. He sends his regrets. He had an important family matter to attend to, so he's unable to join us. But because of the flurry of activity that's happening at the state level, the federal level, and it being the end of the academic calendar in just a few short weeks, he wanted us to proceed without him. So today we're going to go ahead with our traditional town hall format. So if you would please enter in your questions in the Q&A, we will read those off and try to get to as many questions as we can in our 1 hour time. Like we also have done traditionally, we've reached out to shared governance for some questions in advance. So to kick us off, I'm going to ask a few questions of some of our panelists that as you are typing in your questions. And we're going to start off today with Vice President Mojan Stewart. Vice President Stewart, would you please give us a brief overview of how UND is faring in the North Dakota legislative session?
Sure. Thank you, Vice President Linder. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to provide a brief update of what's going on with the legislative session so far. We are in the home stretch. Nothing has been finalized because everything related to our funding bill will need to return to the conference committee because the Senate and House had amendments, so they have to be reviewed by a group that reviews them together to make sure that they're all in agreement. But what I can tell you is where we sit as of today. And as of right now, our funding bill looks pretty good. The state employee salary increases that are included in the budget for all state agencies is a 3% and 3% salary merit pool for both years of the biennium. And the funding of our regular bill is in line with what our recommendations and requests were. So we're very happy about that. We have also received approval to date for phase 2 of the STEM project at $79.5 million, of which 30% of that would be required to be fundraised. And we also have received approval so far to proceed with a study and plans for the allied health professions addition. And that includes $40 million of fundraising authority, as well as $5 million of state funding to help us get started on that initiative. So that is what I have so far, and we will get more information, but please go to there's a site on the President's webpage that we keep updated with all the latest as it relates to the legislative session. So please check that. I would guess there'll be a flurry of activity in the next couple of weeks as we finalize the session. And of course, you can always reach out to me or my team if you have specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next, I'm going to turn things over to Vice President Scott Snyder. Scott, can you give us an update on the federal funding landscape?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice President Linder. I guess the main update, which is unfortunately not that much different than it has been for the last 3 months, is that both guidance and clarity remain limited, and the guidance coming out of the federal funding agencies remains somewhat sporadic. NSF did release some more specific guidance on DEI and NIH and broader impacts, which are, of course, important aspects of NSF grants. And those just came out yesterday. So DEI and boundaries on broader impacts, and then NIH rather has, I'm going to send this, sorry, I want to make sure everybody can have it. I just put the links to the NSF and the NIH new guidance on DEI issues into the chat if you're curious. You can also certainly Google those and find those relatively readily. It's as much guidance as we've had out of the National Science Foundation in particular for quite some time. I will also note that the NIH cap of 15% on indirect costs, which we were quite concerned about in research offices around the country, that has been permanently enjoined by the courts. So we don't expect to see that come back, at least until there is congressional action taken to potentially counter it. We don't know if that'll happen or not. And the Department of Energy, which also was going to cap indirect cost, that has been temporarily restrained. So right now, everybody is still working with their federally negotiated rate, which for most of us at UND is 41% for indirect cost. And I'll point out that a number of university organizations, such as the Association for Public Land Grant Institutions or universities, is joining forces across the country to try to come up with a indirect cost rate model that will be acceptable to the federal government and address some of the concerns that folks on Capitol Hill and in the White House have expressed. So we are actively working on a kind of a longer term solution to that indirect cost issue. On the UND news, we do have a few cancellations of awards, and which is certainly disappointing. But I will say that even though very disappointing and impactful to the folks that were involved in those awards, there have been 4 instances of those cancellations. So it has not been, although impactful, it has not been widespread across the campus. We are seeing new awards often reduced by, or not often, but at least occasionally reduced by 10%. And the biggest challenge comes in the form of proposals where award notifications have been made either formally or informally by the funding agencies, but the actual money is not flowing. And that's causing some real concerns about, how do you kind of bridge those areas before the money does start to flow. So that's perhaps one of the biggest concerns right now, is just the slow pace at which new awards are being funded, and that may have something to do with the staffing decreases. And so with that, the last couple of things that I will mention is to watch out for the president's budget to drop, which will give us some kind of an indication of what research funding might look like in the next fiscal year, since we are on a continuing resolution for this fiscal year. We're not sure when that will happen, sometime in the next couple of months. And I want to remind folks that we all continue to see our congressional delegation frequently and remind them of the importance of robust research funding. So we are advocating for UND and for our researchers quite frequently. And then finally, keep doing your research, keep submitting proposals for funding. There are fewer proposals being submitted to the agencies, which means that your opportunities for success are increased. And then also contact us in the office of the Division of Research and Economic Development with any questions or comments that you might have. We're always happy to help out. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, Vice President Snyder. I'm going to turn things over to Provost Link at this time. Provost Link, could you give us an update on some of the searches that are happening?
Sure. Thank you, Vice President Linder. Happy to do this. Nice to see virtually everybody. Thanks for joining us here today. We have 4 dean searches that are currently in various stages of hire. So I'll go through all 4 of them so you can know where we're at. We have a lot of activity happening in April for sure. Our College of Engineering and Mines search, the national search for the next dean of CEM, is nearing its finalist stage. We are anticipating having finalists visit campus the last week of April, first week of May. So we're just a couple weeks away from welcoming our finalists in that search to campus. And while we can't say for certain exactly when a successful candidate might start, we're certainly targeting a summer start date for that next dean. In the School of Law, we have launched our national search. The search committee has been hard at work, and I know that The search committee has been hosting some fact-finding forums and so forth with stakeholder groups and faculty. We are probably about 2 weeks, give or take, away from launching that search nationally. The search firm that we have engaged with will be building a candidate pool over the summer, and we anticipate being able to interview candidates for that search in the early fall semester. In the meantime, we will be appointing an interim dean to the School of Law. That process is happening right now, and we appreciate everyone's participation in that important process. For the School of Graduate Studies, thanks to the good work of the screening committee and a number of really excellent candidates that put their name forward for the interim position, the screening committee has recommended 2 finalists to be interviewed this week for the interim position. After that position is filled on an interim basis, over the course of this summer, we'll engage with a search firm and put together the logistics for launching a national search for that deanship starting right at the beginning of the fall semester. And for the Nistler College of Business and Public Administration, certainly we are sorry to see Amy Henley announce her departure, but we are so thankful for all that she's done for this university for a number of years, and we wish her the best. So I will be meeting in a town hall with the School of Business, with the Nistler College of Business and Public Administration tomorrow morning to go over the process for naming an interim, and then we will launch a national search early in the fall semester. So that's where we're at with the 4 dean searches. Back to you, Vice President Linder.
Thank you so much, Provost Link. And the questions have started to come in. First question, and I'm going to turn this over to Chief Rodney Clark. Chief Clark, with the recent reports of U.S. citizens receiving notices to leave the U.S. and even having their electronic devices shared or searched at the border, should U.S. citizens take additional precautions when traveling internationally?
Well, thank you, Vice President Linder, for the question. And hello, everyone. I'm Chief Clark, Chief of Police here for the University and Associate Vice President of Public Safety. To answer the question, I would say not necessarily, or a no, you don't have to take any additional precautions. Always when you're traveling overseas or abroad, you'll want to have a valid U.S. passport. Also, some advice that I could give when traveling overseas is know where the United States Embassy or consulate is located in the country that you're traveling to. The embassy or consulate is an extension of the State Department, and it's there for you. It's there for United States citizens to help them in any type of matter that they might encounter when they're in another country. So that's the most key piece of advice I could give, is know where the embassy is or the U.S. consulate in the country that you're traveling to. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Clark. I'm going to go to one question that was answered by our Associate Vice President, Peggy Varberg, but want to make sure that I know what there'll be others that have the same question. The legislature is discussing health insurance changes for state employees. Does UND anticipate charging employees health premiums should this be approved? Peggy, over to you.
Thank you, Vice President Linder. We do not anticipate sharing any of the health premium costs as in the past. That has not appeared in any of the final documents. The change in the plan moves us from being a grandfathered plan to a non-grandfathered plan, meaning there will actually be more coverage that hasn't necessarily been a part of the plan that we've had for breast pumps, breastfeeding, contraceptives, other types of medical testing that wasn't covered in the past will be covered if this is finally approved. So it's in a positive step. The other thing is we will also, in the interim between this biennium and the next biennium, the state will go out for bid for new health insurance, either to stay with Sanford or any other agency that would have an opportunity to provide a bid. Those would all be considered.
All right, thank you so much, Associate Vice President Varberg. I'm going to move on to another question. Vice President Snyder, if grants are terminated, are we going to appeal the terminations and go through a cost recovery process?
Yeah, thank you. The answer to that is complicated, but we will first work with the funding agencies to determine what their processes are and speak with other colleagues from around the nation to determine how they have approached these things. We have not taken this step yet for reasons that apply mostly to the grants being terminated that didn't really leave us any alternative for appeal. So where appropriate, we will certainly follow that, but the approach that we are taking right now is just to be in communication with the funding agencies.
Thanks so much, Vice President Snyder. Moving on to construction. Associate Vice President Kibben, with the construction that's going on this summer with Columbia Overpass in South Washington, more people will be entering campus on 2nd Avenue. The road is in terrible condition from construction, especially between the Fritz Pollard and the softball fields. Is there going to be a fix?
Thank you, Vice President Linder. The unfortunate part about traveling to campus this summer is while the closure of Columbia is occurring, 2nd Avenue will also be closed for construction. It will be a phased project, but it will also be closed. And so traveling to campus is going to be a little bit of a challenge. 42nd and Washington will be the two routes to campus. And then furthermore, the Washington underpass will also be reduced to 1 lane in both directions for a period of the summer. So unfortunately, while they're doing the overpass, they will also be doing 2nd Avenue.
All right, thank you so much. Lots of activity on the campus this summer. I'm going to move on to Chief Clark again. Is UND notified when ICE or Border Patrol is on campus like they were last week? If UND is notified ahead of time, will that be communicated out to faculty, staff, and students in a timely manner?
Thanks again, Vice President Linder, for the question. The answer on that is it kind of depends. What everybody needs to understand is Grand Forks is kind of a border patrol town, if you will. We have a lot of agents that live in the town because they go up to the Pembina border crossing to work and are in the area. So sometimes, like in the incident last week that I heard about, some of those agents were simply eating lunch in the Union, was the story that I got. They weren't here for any kind of enforcement action. So not necessarily are they going to notify us every time they're on campus for something like that. So I couldn't, make that guarantee. But I would just know that, since we're so close to the border with Canada, as opposed to being like in Kansas or Oklahoma or something like that, it is more of a border type town. This is the first major city that you come to on I-29 from Canada. So you are going to have, there's an office in town as well. So there is some border patrol activity. So as long as everybody's abiding by the law and things like that, there's nothing to be concerned about.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Clark. There's a little bit of a delay on my video, so my apologies to everyone. The next question is going to go back over to AVP Varberg. Peggy, will the health insurance be moved to a high deductible, or will it be a low deductible with copays going towards what we pay on the deductible right now?
Yeah, I don't see any changes for the high deductible, and our new grandfathered won't go to a high deductible. The deductibles may change a little bit within the plan, and the copays may change a little bit within the plan. But the good news is the copays are going to actually inform the deductibles better, so they'll be counted in your overall look for the year, which is good because currently they're not. So we'll be able to see some changes internally, but again, it won't be like the high deductible at all.
Thank you, and stay on. I'm going to give you another question before. The salary raises for the biennium is 3%. Does UND have a range for those salary increases?
We currently don't have an approved range yet. Please remember that the 3% is an allotment that we get from the state, and it can be used. Leaders will have an opportunity to make decisions based on merit and market. So any market moves that need to be made, some of this funding can be helpful there too.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn this next question back over to Chief Clark. Chief Clark, is University Police working with ICE to target UND students? I understand international students received an email from the federal government which circumvented the UND administration. This is concerning and horrifying to our students and others. Can you share some insight?
Thanks again, Melanie. The answer is no, we're not working to target anyone. That being said, we would, of course, cooperate with federal agents if they had a valid investigation or reason to be on campus. So, you know, it would depend. We're not targeting anyone or working with ICE to target anyone, but it's our obligation as law enforcement to uphold United States and North Dakota laws. So we would, of course, cooperate with federal authorities. I can't speak to any validity of an email that was circulated. I don't know anything about that. So I can't speak to that as far as the email that was brought up.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to go back over to AVP Varberg. AVP Varberg, is there any update on the Huron study? If there are to be any pay increases based on the findings, when would those be implemented and would they be retroactive at all?
So I don't expect that increases would be retroactive. This is all new data. You know, as we've discussed the project all along, not everyone will receive an increase. Some people's pay in their markets were exactly where they should be. But we, as far as a Huron update, and we have been grinding through the data with Huron, and then we've met with senior leadership on the staff job architecture. So we've had an opportunity to meet with the president, his executive council, the deans, operational associate and assistant vice presidents, vice provosts, and others who have in turn been able to meet with their leadership teams to discuss as appropriate the draft data that they got, and then provide us feedback. Because there are things we may not know. So we may see a person sitting in a position for X amount of years, but that number could be wrong. And so this is part of the data. And then as we reviewed 1,900 position descriptions on the staff side alone, this is a lot of data to really churn through. So we're in the process of reviewing that feedback and closely looking at that based on the draft data that we finished with Huron. And then our hope is that in the next month or so that will be done. We will start to do trainings on what the new outcomes look like, what the new architecture is, all of those things. So people will be fully aware of how the new model works and be able to ask questions and all of those good things. So we do appreciate, we know this has been almost 2 years of a 5-year project. This is where we have the most work is in the first 2 years. So we appreciate everyone's patience and there's light at the end of our tunnel. So we're happy about that.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to turn the next question over to Provost Link. Provost Link, given the recent information of mutual defense compacts by Big Ten universities to safeguard academic freedom, is UND exploring similar initiatives or collaborations to ensure our institutional autonomy?
It's a great question, and I appreciate it. It's a complicated one to answer in a sense. The simplest answer is I'm not aware of UND as an institution actively working to build such a coalition or to join, say, the Big Ten coalition, the Mutual Defense Compact. That said, we are routinely investigating ways to make sure we can advocate for the best interests of our students our faculty and our staff on this campus. And we are certainly trying to pay attention on a daily basis to what's happening at the national level and the local level to make sure that we can make the best informed decisions for the benefit of our students, faculty, and staff. That commitment will certainly continue.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to turn things over to Vice Provost Janelle Kilgore. Janelle, can we get an update on fall registrations? The question is, I work one-on-one with our students in our office, and we refer them to academic advising, but it seems that there are not many classes open or have high wait lists. How do we encourage students to be more patient?
Thank you, VP Linder. Yeah, I think we will actually tag team this with Dr. Plum as well, since she oversees the academic advising portion. But as far as incoming new class, when we talk about freshmen right now, we have a very strong incoming freshman class. We anticipate it may exceed the fall 24 class for our campus registrations. Transfer students are trending in a strong direction, as well as our graduate students. And so really positive trends that we're seeing with the new student population. Obviously, summer and fall registration is currently open. We are currently on the 4th week of registration and seeing positive trends both for summer as well as for fall semester. As far as academic advising and things like that, Karen, I am going to ask you to help answer that question. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Janelle. We are working very closely with the deans on course availability and looking at where we are at with wait lists and how quickly courses are filling for students right now. So we do anticipate that more sections and more seats in sections will continue to be opened up as we keep an eye on how quickly students are getting registered for courses across campus. Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much. I'm going to turn things over to Vice President Mojan Stewart again to give us an update on Columbia Hall, followed by an update on parking.
Can you hear me for some reason? Oh, there we go. I don't know what was happening. Sure. So Columbia Hall, we are actively working to designate plans for where everyone is going to go once the building is taken offline. There's been active participation by the deans and the faculty and staff who are going to be impacted. We have not finalized all of the plans, so if you haven't heard anything, it's not because we have a plan and we haven't shared it. So that is ongoing. But again, we're trying to come up with multiple options and then work with each of the impacted areas to make sure that any solutions that we come up with will work. So thank you to everyone who's been participating actively in those discussions. We really appreciate it. And what was your second question, Melanie? I already forgot.
Everyone's favorite topic, parking.
Oh, how did I forget that? Parking. So as many of you know, we engaged a parking consultant over the last year and a half to come up with what we would hope to be a more efficient and effective parking structure. We have finalized the report that they have sent, and we will be, I think we actually have a meeting on Wednesday with the parking committee to share with them our parking recommendations. And then shortly following that, we will be sending out communication to all faculty, staff, and students about what those changes will be for next year. So be checking your email, and I lied, it's next Wednesday, it's not this Wednesday. So we will be sending out that information as soon as the parking committee has reviewed and made recommendations, and then we will get that out to the campus community as soon as possible.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I've got another question for AVP Varberg. Peggy, with the Huron study being done in the past 2 years, wouldn't the study be behind what current wages are and being implemented in the next 2 years?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you. So we've kept an eye on what the market's doing, and we are required to do market or salary surveys every year. And we do those in December and January. We have, 6 or 7 salary surveys that we provide information to, and then we get those back. And so we get them back in the spring, all the information in the spring, like now. And so we will be balancing the two. We've kept an eye on them. We've made some changes last year, which was not a Huron year. And then we will continue to manage that data and make sure that we're up to date.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to send this next question over to Heather Wages. Heather, what steps is UND taking to meet the new Title II requirements? How is UND approaching the implementation of the updated Title II guidelines across departments?
Melanie, I'm sorry, I'm actually not sure how to answer that question, so I can't do that. I'm not sure if somebody else on the call can.
All right, thank you so much. Provost Link.
Yeah, I'm guessing that this question is speaking to the new ADA requirements for web access and so forth. So I'm actually going to loop in Jeff Holm, if he doesn't mind, to share an update on the work that TDA and other units have been doing to help prepare for that shift. If that's not what the asker of the question is referring to, then I would ask the asker of the question to clarify in the Q&A. Jeff, over to you.
Sure, thank you, Provost Link. I'll keep it fairly brief, although this is much more of a long-term change and process for us than a one-time event. Universities are expected to be in compliance with the new regulations by April 2026. There are several aspects to it, but we'll just kind of deal with a couple main ones. There's the public-facing side, website, and so forth, which marketing and creative are kind of taking the lead on that. Then there is the kind of Blackboard learning academic side that TDA, working with me, are taking the lead on that as well. There are 2 committees that the president has charged to make sure that we're moving forward on this appropriately. There's a steering committee, Donna Smith is chairing that committee, and there's a working group committee that Beth Valentine is chairing as well. We have provided the dean's updates, and the deans, I believe, will be sending out an email fairly soon referring to Strive for 85, which has to do with an accessibility score in Blackboard courses. We want to be there by the end of fall term, the beginning of spring term. Again, this will go into effect officially in April of 2026. But again, this is a process. So 85, while if we have all courses at 85 will be fantastic, we eventually need to try to get everything as close to 100 as possible. So there is a lot of activity in the background, and it's about to emerge on the main stage, so to speak.
Thank you so much. And I'll just add that if anyone has any additional questions, you can also go regarding digital accessibility. You can go to the digital accessibility website, or you can reach out to Beth Valentine directly, who's leading our efforts in that space. Next question, is there any update regarding the desire to bring individuals back to campus versus working fully remote? I'll turn that over to AVP Varberg to answer.
Thank you. There is not a holistic campus discussion going on about bringing everyone back to campus versus having folks still be able to be remote. Those discussions happen in specific areas where leaders and the employees, staff, faculty make decisions about where the position faces. You know, it's really about what the position does and who they serve. So those discussions happen frequently across campus. And the same, I would say, would be true with hybrid. So if there is a person who would like to be considered to have a flex or hybrid opportunity, they should visit with their direct supervisor and discuss, you know, what impact that would be for the position and for whatever service it provides to the university and to our students.
Thanks so much. The next question is going to go to AVB Kibben. Do we know when and if Babcock Hall will be raised? If so, that area would seem to be a great place for a parking lot that could reduce some of the parking congestion on the south end of campus. Matt, over to you.
Thank you, Vice President Linder. Today, I haven't had any discussions hit my desk about the future of Babcock, although I do know that there's been consideration for removing Babcock from the campus. I will say that as Vice President Stewart mentioned, the conversation around parking, I think, will be helpful in alleviating some of the pressure in that area.
Thank you so much. The next question I'm going to turn over to Provost Link. Provost Link, with the attack on DEI, are any staff in the areas that serve these areas of service at risk of losing their jobs, or will UND aid in shifting their roles to be in compliance with the federal government and still provide those services because they serve as retention efforts for our students?
Yeah, it's a great question, an important one, and it speaks to the work of the university and the values that we share about making sure we can have a campus that continues to be a place where everyone is welcomed and treated with dignity and respect, and that they have an opportunity to grow and succeed. Those values remain unchanged at our university, and we certainly stand by them. I do understand when we field questions around this topic on a weekly basis, if not daily basis, in my office and in other offices across campus about what could happen with this job or this job. The simple answer today is I'm not aware of anyone whose job that is specifically related to the service of our UND community and the support of our students is under a particular risk. We will continue to monitor executive orders as they come out. We will continue to, of course, make sure we are in compliance with known law. But at the moment, I can't say I'm aware of a specific job on campus under a particular threat from these executive orders. But we're going to continue to monitor the situation and work with the community as best we can.
Thank you, Provost Lincoln. If you'd stay on, I'm going to send the next question to you as well. I've been reading about international students having their visas revoked at institutions across the U.S. Has this affected UND students? Are there issues affecting international student enrollment? And how can we support our international students during this time of uncertainty?
Another great question, and one we have been struggling with for weeks at this point. And in a moment, I may ask Janelle to fill in some of the gaps that I may miss here. I would encourage every international student on this campus to make sure they are staying in touch with our International Student Center, where they can get excellent advice and up-to-date information about what's happening in terms of travel restrictions and so forth and so on, visa statuses. For faculty and staff who have questions about visa statuses, they can always reach out to Heather Wages in my office for assistance getting their questions answered. We won't necessarily have answers to every question, but we will make sure that they get directed to people who may have an answer to the question. I've lost the thread of the first half of the question, Melanie.
I think you got to most of it. And what can we do to support our students and maintain those services during this time of uncertainty?
For sure. So in general, you can infer from what we're saying here is this is a premium on our campus. We want to make sure that all of our students have the opportunity to get the help they need, to get their questions answered, and to get support when they need it. On that, I am going to turn it over to Janelle just to see if she has some details to fill in here.
Thank you, Provost Link. Thank you, VP Linder. Yeah, the International Center is pulling SEVIS records daily to make sure that if any student's SEVIS record is terminated, we are reaching out directly to the students. We are working with the administration, UPD, and a few other areas, academic areas, in regards to making sure that we can support students that have a terminated visa record. As far as supporting the students, the International Center has teamed up with the Counseling Center. So really making sure that students have the additional support and conversations and things like that that they need. If a student's SEVIS record is terminated, we are also referring them to an immigration attorney that the university works with to help get the most up-to-date guidance. There was a group of us that met with the immigration attorneys here last week to kind of talk through some of the different scenarios. We are seeing some positive trends with SEVIS records that were terminated are being reinstated. So there's a few different options and guidance and things like that. So really, International Center is going to work directly with the student and then getting them connected to the resources that are needed. We definitely want to continue to support our international students. As we talk about enrollment for the fall semester as well, we aren't seeing a dip in international student applications. And so again, we want to continue to support our international student population while they're here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to turn the next question over to Vice Provost Holmes, and Vice President Marjan Stewart may also want to add to this, but what is happening with the North Dakota legislative move to defund online students?
Thank you, Vice President Linder. There has been a lot of conversation for several months about the funding formula as it relates to online students, but I think we need to be more specific. The concern that seems to be primary, and again, this is not a majority of representatives or senators, but of at least some, has to do with funding out-of-state online students, and by out-of-state specifically not including Minnesota, not including, at least from what I've heard, South Dakota or Montana, so our contiguous states. Their concern, at least on the surface, or the first primary concern, is that these individuals will never contribute to the economy, the workforce of North Dakota, and things such as that. UND has been prepared for these discussions for literally a year, and we have disseminated a lot of information. For example, because of our out-of-state enrollments, we're able to offer a greater variety of online courses to North Dakota citizens. We've also challenged the belief that these out-of-state students cannot contribute to the workforce in North Dakota, and a number of other arguments as well, including simply the financial viability of the university system. So at this point, it's possible that someone else on the call knows the more up-to-date, because a lot of this has been behind the scenes or questions asked in legislative hearings, but not moves to actually do anything officially. But that's the last I heard, and that was a couple of days ago.
Thank you for that. Over to you, Vice President Marjan Stewart.
Thank you, Vice President Linder. The only thing I will add to Dr. Holmes' comments is that they have included language in our bill for an interim study on the funding formula, of which the online discussion will certainly be a part of that. And we will be prepared to defend our position, and it's really not even about defending, it's about really showing the benefits that our online education provides not only to our campus and our students, but our country and our world. And so we will work really hard to make sure that that education is happening to everyone that is going to be participating in that interim study.
Thank you. And if you wouldn't mind staying on, I'm going to throw the next question back over to you as well. Will there be a potential poll for employees on campus and other institutions in the state on the future of the healthcare legislative bill that's passing, just so that they know how our employees are feeling? The statement here is that the future premiums have to be paid. They believe it would be hard to retain employees and bring in new employees. It's such a huge benefit for the people who come to work at UND.
Peggy jumped on, so I will let her take this one.
That's a really great question. And technically, you've already done it. So if you took the opportunity to fill out the total reward survey that we had just shortly ago, within the last few months, that was pushed out by the system office, it was the same survey that was done with state agencies as well. And so what came back, what we just started to see now, is for UND, North Dakota University System, and the state, employees have said the number one thing we don't want to lose is not having to pay premiums for healthcare. That's very important to us. It's one of the reasons why we stay here. It's one of the reasons why we come to UND. So that information has been shared widely with the legislators as they've had these conversations about what new health insurance or changed health insurance might look like. So we know that Molly Harrington, who is the chief HR person for the system, has shared this information. In addition to Andy Pers has talked about it as testimony has been given. So great idea. And I'm happy to say that we've really initiated that process already.
Thank you so much. And stay on. The next question's for you again. Our colleagues at NDSU have implemented summer hours where offices shift to 4 10-hour days or close on Fridays. Is this something that UND may consider exploring as well, especially for departments with more flexibility, reduced foot traffic in the summer? And what would be the best way for staff to initiate or support a discussion around piloting summer hours or remote days?
So great question. UND has done this for years, specifically leaving the area's facilities. So they move to summer hours every year, usually mid to later May. They're going to start rolling into summer hours so that people are working 410s, having half day Fridays. It just depends on what their role is and so forth. So those conversations happen with leadership and facilities. I'm aware of another major department that's that is also having discussions, but there's this opportunity anywhere. So if you would like to consider changing your schedule somewhat to have a Monday or a Friday off or a half day, something along that theme, I encourage you to talk with leadership in your area and let them know, just ask and make that request. So it's not a whole UND deal, but there are many areas that have done this for a long time.
Thank you so much. The next question I am going to send over to Chief Clark. And this is, I do not have one student or faculty member in mind, but I am concerned for the safety and perfection of all of our students, faculty, and staff. Could UND law enforcement please share a list of spaces that are considered public on campus and those that are considered private so that we know where we can refuse to let ICE access? Do we have, if they do, we do not have a judge warrant. This would allow us to ensure that we are compliant with federal and state law.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So University of North Dakota is state property. Even your individual offices is not your private space. It belongs to the state. The only exception that immediately comes to mind would be a resident. The best advice I could give is don't try and outsmart like a federal authority or a federal agent with what you think you know about a judge signing an order versus a judge not signing an order. If you have a concern, I would contact the university police department immediately. I would not obstruct a federal agent trying to carry out their duties. That's just the best advice. I'm not a lawyer, but that's the advice that I would give you, or you may find yourself on the wrong side of the law. So individual questions like that, if it's a specific person, they have the right to ask their own questions and to seek legal counsel. But generally speaking, we cooperate with federal authorities, and we support them in legitimately carrying out the duties that they're assigned.
All right, thank you so much. One last update, and I'm going to send this over to AVP Gibbon. Can you give us an update on the Columbia overpass, Demers and 42nd underpass?
Thank you, Vice President Linder. Sure can. The Columbia overpass, as mentioned earlier, will be closed beginning on May 19th, and it will remain closed probably through the end of October is the anticipated schedule. While that's a challenge, it does provide some opportunity for us as we consider that as we know, we're going to be taking down the Hislop, and provides us a haul route to the north without other traffic on Columbia. And I should mention that both Columbia and 2nd Avenue and 25th Street, there's a storm sewer going there. All of those projects are going in there this summer. All of those projects are city projects. With regard to 42nd Street and the underpass, design is progressing on that project. I would encourage everybody to go to the facilities website and look at the campus renewal blog, where we've posted image of what the travel path will look like at the completion of the construction. The geometry changes pretty significantly from how you typically traverse 42nd Street. So please take a look at that. Hopefully the arrows are big enough so you can kind of see how you would flow through that area. But construction there is anticipated to start in spring of 26 and will run for 2 years. In the intervening time period, UND will also be adjusting the golf course, Ray Richards Golf Course. It will remain a 9-hole course. It will go from a par 36 to a par 33 course. So if there are any other questions, though, feel free to reach out and we can discuss further.
Thank you so much. And we are about at time. And so I'm going to turn things over to Provost Link to close us out, and thank everyone for some great questions today.
Thank you, Vice President Linder, and a huge thanks to everyone who tuned in today, who sent in great questions. I certainly want to thank all of my colleagues on the panel for their expertise and for providing answers when we could. As we all know, there are so many things we still don't quite have answers to, but I am grateful that we as a campus community are coming together to at least make sure we are studying the questions, asking the right questions, pursuing answers to those questions, and making sure the information gets out to the campus community. The questions have run quite the gamut today, as you might expect, from parking to facilities to state legislature moves and bills and merit raises and on and on and on. One of the things that I remain grateful for and impressed by, and it is reflected in so many of the questions that were asked today, is just how deeply our campus community is thinking about the safety and the success and the support of our students. I am continually humbled and amazed at the way this campus community comes together on a daily basis to try to make sure that regardless of what happens that we can't control, we make sure that we are still committed to the great work of this university. You know, it's been an amazing year, and I know we are just a couple weeks away from our spring commencement and from the end of the current legislative session. And I know we're not ready to get out and tally up all of our victories quite yet. But when I was reflecting this morning, driving into work, thinking about our town hall today, about what the past year has meant to all of us as a community, it has certainly been one with challenges and questions and anxieties, and those are real. And as we know from the questions that we've been dealing with today, we are all, as a campus community, still trying to work together to get answers to those questions and to provide a great campus environment for students, faculty, and staff. But we've also seen a community that has had a near record enrollment this fall and outstanding projections for enrollment heading into next fall. Record-setting retention rates. A campus that was announced just a few months ago is now officially an R1 institution. We have brought new programs online. We just recently welcomed our newest Truman Scholar onto campus. Our legislative work has been important and ongoing. And again, don't want to count chickens before they hatch, right? But we have really been, as a community, advocating well on behalf of our campus and our students and our faculty and staff interests. Not just administration, not just all the faculty, but shared governance bodies as well. I certainly want to tip my cap to the University Senate and its leadership and all of the work it's done through the legislative session, to student government for all of their outstanding testimony and leadership and advocacy, to CCF for their work on legislative matters and matters of critical importance to the faculty, staff, and students of the university system. Merrifield opened this year, and if you haven't been in, you should. It's an amazing building. And in the meantime, we are on the cusp of starting our next major capital project with the new STEM facility. A lot is going to happen over this summer. Buildings will come down, new buildings will start to emerge. It's an amazing time on campus, and everyone's going to find an alternative route to avoid the Columbia overpass. So I'll end on this note. Thanks to all of you for the great work this year. Really appreciate all of your dedication to our campus, to the principles of higher education, to our students. It is still a thing of privilege and joy and challenge and of academic interest to be engaged collectively in the higher education space. And I'm so proud of what we are doing as a campus for our state and our students. So I'll see you at commencement. And beyond that, I wish you all an amazing summer, and we will be back at it in the fall. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a great rest of the semester. Take care.